Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And joining us from the Two Mics podcast, Michael Carlson.
Hello again, everybody. This is Michael.
Thank you for joining us this week, Michael. I'm glad you're here. You're here mainly for our 90 movies, the 1990 movies. Not
the early 90s movies. I like to base all my existence off of 1985 to 1992 program basis that was on HBO at the time. So if it was ever on HBO between 85 and 92, that's my wheelhouse right there.
So we have 2 more years of you being a guest
before
you cut us off. All right. This week, The Grifters came out along with The Rookie, the Charlie Sheen and Clint Eastwood movie. But before we get there, I want to tell you to visit our website, ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle there is CriticsPod. Like us there, subscribe to the show. We're on YouTube as well, Alexa, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all of the places that you listen to podcasts. Again, subscribe to those shows, rate and review the shows. We'll try to read your reviews on the air. And then patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to help support the podcast. We're currently live on Facebook. I think ultimately we might just take these videos and put them on Patreon, because otherwise we don't really give you anything else on Patreon other than our...
but we get something big coming up there, though, soon.
We currently have the Thanksgiving episode up there, which I don't know why you care about in mid-December, but there's also coming up for Christmas, we're going to be doing I Spit on Your Grave, a whole 60-minute bonus podcast on everything I spit on your grave. I can't wait.
If you like violence against women, you're going to love that.
Well, I do.
I Spit on Your Grave Christmas.
Hopefully we get to it by Christmas. Because it's a lot of content to get through. I'm watching everything on that thing. I actually bought it just because I'm curious. I know it was a lot of money. But
isn't there like 6 different versions?
Yeah.
A couple different versions. I have 2 documentaries and multiple commentaries.
Now, I have listened to the commentary track, so I'm okay there. I don't got to redo that. But I don't know. It'll be fun. Or maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Really underestimating the experience, because I really did have a horrific experience watching this the first time. And yeah.
You know what? You don't want to give people too much before you release their special episode.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And then our TeePublic page at ihatecritics.net. Up in the right-hand corner, there's a TeePublic link. And if you can see me on Facebook now, I'm wearing one of the shirts now. I'll always wear a different one every week. Can't wait till I get to the Willem Dafoe one.
That one's fantastic. I didn't realize that was real. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, we weren't even going to do that, and then Cousin Jeff he drew me a quick sketch. I'm like, oh, we have to. That is stuff. Somebody bought a mask of it. If the TeePublic masks weren't such pieces of shit, I'd buy one too.
Like a quarantine mask or like a lucha libre mask?
Like a quarantine mask.
Okay, all right.
It'd be better as a lucha libre mask. Oh, all right. Before we get going, I guess we'll talk about, I suppose we can call it news. Time Warner and HBO are going to try to really screw theaters over next year.
Well, they're going to fail miserably at it too, though.
You think?
I think this is more of a sign that HBO Max, or whatever they call it, is struggling, and they're kind of desperate. And really, because they know, I think what everybody knows is that when this is over, when we go back to normal, people are going back to the movies. They are. People are going to be desperate to get out of their homes. And one of the places where you could go and be outside of your home for a few hours is the movie theater. And movie theater is going to bounce back in a huge, huge way. And this move by HBO, I think, is more about them trying to drive subscriptions to HBO Max than it is anything. And when the theater owners are back up and running and back up to normal, and NATO is back to the power that they've had in the past, the National Association of Theater Owners, they're going to have the power to say, you know what? No, your movies aren't coming here. We're not going to take Dune. We're not going to take whatever else that they've got coming out next year, and they don't have to. Because Disney's going to theaters, the new all the other ones are going to theaters. All the other big studios are going back to theaters next year. Warner Brothers is going to be out there by themselves doing this, and I think they're going to be forced to abandon it or alter it in some way relatively quickly once the theater owners show that, hey, everybody's back now.
Is it a guarantee, though, that no one else is going to follow suit? I mean, I agree. When I watch HBO Max, I have the worst connection with that than I do anything else. Everything else I can stream straight through, no problem, despite my shitty internet connection. HBO, I constantly buffer, which shouldn't happen in 2020. And I don't know if that's like that for everybody else, but for me it is. I do like the shows they got, and I do like the movies they're going to bring there, so I'm definitely going to keep the subscription. But I don't know. If someone else does it, though, that really could force the theater owner's hands, like, especially if Disney did it. But I guess they control everything, so we'll see what they do.
Disney already has Disney Plus, and they've already shown what they can do with Disney Plus via Mulan and soon to be via Soul. But even they're looking at that, going, "This is great, but we're going back to the movie theaters."
Yeah, I mean, they want movie 2 and they want you to pay 2 and 3 times for the same movie.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like they're clutching at straws to a certain extent. Like, where's the tipping point for all the streaming services? Like, at some point, people are going to be like, I'm done with this one. I'm done with that one,
Yeah, that is true. And I think HBO has, in a lot of ways, a lot of good content on it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know how readily available it is. I mean, I'm technically paying for it twice, and I can't figure out how to not. Just, I don't know. Apparently, I have it free through DirecTV, and
okay.
But I can't get it to work. I don't know. It's been kind of a nightmare. But but at the same time, the content's so good. They have Impractical Jokers. All right.
Oh, yeah. I just don't think it's going to work. I really do think that people are going back to movie theaters, and I think they'll have to course correct relatively quickly on this. And they have to find a noble way to say that this didn't work and try and work out a way to work with the theater owners.
Why would you not wait for the theaters for Dune to come out? That just seems insane.
Especially something that epic. But then again, it could be. We don't know what IMAX is doing. Maybe they're going to make a deal with IMAX, and IMAX does have the power to kind of force things their way, even where they are. Like our area, IMAX is in a big chain theater. IMAX does have the power to push a couple things around. Like, I'm sure IMAX had a big part of playing Wonder Woman in theaters the same day that it's going to be on streaming.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe that might be an avenue for Dune, if there's a deal with IMAX.
All right.
Like if Wonder Woman was your jam, and you could sit 2 or 3 seats away from somebody, mask up, and go to IMAX, I would do it. If that was really your thing.
I mean, it's not hard to social distance in our local IMAX.
Okay.
It's a cavern.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to our regular show and start with the new movies. And I guess we'll lead with Black Bear.
All right. Black Bear stars Aubrey Plaza as Allison. She's a film director who goes to stay at a cabin in the woods. She's trying to get away to write her next screenplay, and she meets these 2 people who run the place. Christopher Abbott is one of them, and he is in a relationship with this woman, Sarah, and but he doesn't really let that on initially to Allison, and he begins flirting with her, only for her to find out that he's, not only is he in a relationship, he's about to have a baby with Sarah. They arrive at the cabin, and all this starts to happen over dinner, where they just start to have this incredibly awkward and painful conversation that is filled with recriminations and just attempts by people to be civil, but also there's attempts by others to just make it uncivil. And it's a really awkward and fascinating conversation. That then takes a big turn, and then you end up in a completely different movie where Aubrey Plaza's character is now a star of a movie. Christopher Abbott's character is the director, and Sarah, the woman who plays Sarah, is now her co-star. And you're not quite sure how you got to this point, but you're still kind of like, for me, I was still fascinated. Like, where are we now? What's going on? This is one of those movies that's going to confound and irritate a lot of people, but I was riveted to it because Aubrey Plaza is so amazing in it. She's just so incredible to watch. And when you make that shift and you turn the camera around and it becomes this whole other movie, this making of a different movie, I was just absolutely in love with this. And then of course they're recreating the scene that we just saw, the dinner scene, this awkward, horrific conversation. And there's a whole new number of different pressures on that conversation, and it's just fascinating to watch. I love this movie.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell happened or what his true motivation was, but it still works and it was easy to watch. And I mean, it could have been the first part was the actual movie. The first part was inspired to create the movie that they were making. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, and all of them work for me. And you're right, Aubrey Plaza was amazing, and it was just a watchable art movie that normally pisses people off, but in this one I thought was pretty entertaining.
It feels like what I'm looking for in a movie. Like pretty much every movie you start watching, you can kind of tell within the 15 minutes what's going to happen. And in this movie, you have no idea what's going to happen at all. Like initially, Sarah Gadon, she plays a pregnant lady. She starts spouting all this crazy talk. You're like, yep, this is what a pregnant lady sounds like. Yep. Sorry, but it's like, but it moves on, and it's fantastic. I would recommend it to anyone who's like a movie person. They would definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, and even like the husband and wife fights in both parts of the movie. You don't really know the motivation, so you can't really side with either one of them because you're just kind of in the moment. But they're still like fights you see husband and wives have. So it was, I don't know, it was just interesting, if nothing else.
I mean, he in the second half of the movie. I mean, in the first half he's kind of a dick. In the second movie, second half of the movie, he's a true bastard because he's manipulating his wife, trying to get this performance out of her. So by using all this horrific emotional manipulation and trying to create this tension that maybe wasn't there before, try and draw her out. And the cool thing about that is, in a way, not cool in the sense of the movie, is that this is something that's based on things that directors have actually done.
Right. Which,
right or wrong, it has produced some amazing work over the years.
Right, like when Aubrey Plaza attacks her. And the director's he's halfway scared for her, but at the same time, like, oh my God, are we getting this? And I mean, I think it was largely based on Kubrick and The Shining, how he treated Shelley Duvall. But David O. Russell's
famous
done
one,
it.
but I mean, like David O. Russell,
yeah.
Stuff like that have been hinted at in the past.
Yeah, it was interesting. Right now, you can.
It kind of felt like it gave you like this snapshot of what's behind the curtain, and they had 2 or 3 really good lines. Like the costume guy's like, "Well, I really could be an actor, but I'm just so passionate about my craft." I thought that was.
And I mean, I don't know what the black bear symbolizes other than the end of the story, or that it's a dream or whatever. I don't really know, but do you know what it symbolized?
I honestly, not really. Yeah, it's just sort of, it's something that's there as a function of moving the plot along, and just, to create some tension. Certainly it does create a lot of tension, this black bear, when it does pop up.
One point I was going to suggest that maybe it not even symbolized, it was just more of a fact that sex is sex, but watch out for bears, they'll kill you. Okay. But they didn't kill.
I was thinking it symbolized like a slow economy, or taking a nap, or a reference to the bald black bear of Clare County. I don't know.
Regardless, it's weird.
The point for me, though, is that I didn't care because I was so deeply invested in these characters that I wasn't even searching so much for symbolism as I might, otherwise.
Right. Yeah, I don't really care either. I just wanted to keep the conversation going. That's why I asked. Anything else on Black Bear before we move on?
It's a top 10 for me. That's how good this movie is. It's one of my best of the year.
I can't argue with that.
I was a big fan of Aubrey Plaza on the to-do list. Have you guys seen the to-do list? I think it's a comedy. It's like a raunchy, sexy girl
raunchy
I've comedy. But she did that fantastic. Like, can she carry a movie by herself? And she did. And then in this movie, she plays a great crazy person on the edge. She did a really good job.
She's amazing, and she was she was in Bad Grandpa. And she was easily the best thing in that piece of shit. She's amazing in Happiest Season. That's a wonderful performance from just last week, and she's just awesome.
Agreed. What about Minor Premise? Is that any good?
Minor Premise. This is a very interesting movie. Minor Premise is the story of a neuroscientist who's experimenting on trying to build his own intelligence, and he's built this machine that accidentally shatters his consciousness into 9 different component parts, and each of them takes control of his mind for about a 6-minute period during an hour. And he's got to use there's 2 component parts here: his intellect and this sort of default personality have to work together in order to try and figure out how to bring back all of his consciousness into one consciousness. Weird, fascinating, different premise. This is a really interesting movie. Sathya Sridharan is the star here, and he is working with his girlfriend, Allie, played by Peyton Ashbrook, to try and kind of document first each of these personalities and each of these aspects of his consciousness. And then they find that one of these consciousnesses is just consciousness. It's they call it number 8, and they don't know what it does. And everything else, like, one represents his anxiety, another one's his sexuality, and another aspect is his intellect, obviously. And there are 9 different ones, but one of them, they don't know what he does. And that one is the one that's causing all the trouble. It's trying to take over the consciousness for himself and become essentially this character. And that's kind of the whole tension of the thing is he has to have this character. He has to have our main guy, the default guy, there in order to create the machine and fix the machine to make it work. But he also wants to undermine him and take over. So that's the tension going on. He's in this kind of mental battle with himself throughout. And that becomes really good. This is a really low budget movie. Like the machine that he builds looks like a wired up hairdryer from a salon, which no idea how that would possibly work, but it works well enough. And I enjoy low budget ambition, especially the low budget ambition of this is a lot of fun.
Where can you find it at? Just your normal streaming platforms? Got to rent it?
Yeah, it's out there wherever you can find it, and it's definitely worth checking out. It's fun.
It seems super interesting. It kind of feels like Altered States meets Death of Superman meets Sybil. Like, it seems like it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm upset I missed it.
Like I said, a really clever premise and really well executed. I loved the way that they represented each of the different aspects of his personality. And then they got this one that's really, really kind of dangerous. And, we know this consciousness needs him around. We don't know if he needs the girlfriend around. And you're kind of wondering every time he emerges, is she in trouble? Is she going to die? What's going to happen? That's fun.
Yeah.
And this actor does an amazing job.
I listen to the podcast, and a lot of times you talk about these also ran movies, and I'm like, this is just another crappy movie Sean's talking about. But this one actually sounds like something I can check out. And this is Minor Premise?
Minor Premise, yes.
Yeah, I was all clevered out after this week's episode. So I didn't get to that one. I kind of wish I would have versus the next one we're going to talk about, The Sound of Metal.
The Sound of Metal stars Riz Ahmed and Olivia Cook. Riz Ahmed is a heavy metal drummer. Olivia Cook's in his band and also his girlfriend. And he loses his hearing. And he's kind of trying to figure out what to do with the rest of his life now because he's a heavy metal drummer who can no longer hear. And he's also a former drug addict. So this is obviously a huge triggering event for him that could lead him back to drugs if it goes the wrong way. So he ends up going to this rehab clinic in the middle of nowhere where it's just him and a group of other deaf people. And he's got to learn how to sign and read lips and try and figure out a whole new life for himself. And he's got to do so also without his girlfriend who is sent away to go back out on the road and do whatever it is that she's going to do with their music. And I really was riveted by this movie. I was really moved by this film. I thought Riz Ahmed was pretty great in this, and it's a story that doesn't often get told. A very unique character study, and the sound design especially is fascinating, and I guess nobody really knows how to properly describe what it might be like to be in this situation. So I thought it was very inventive what they came up with to represent him first starting to lose his hearing and then completely losing it.
I kept going in and out of interest. Like, it was like I felt like it had pacing problems where it would get boring for a while and then it would get interesting again, then it would get boring again, and then it would get interesting again. It is a really good story. It is it's terrifying in some ways. It is fascinating, and I guess riveting is a good word too, but there was too many times where I was bored in between when it picked up. So it was hard. It took me like 3 times to get through it because I would just see myself dozing off. So, in fact, I saw the ending, but what led up to the ending, I'm only guessing kind of what happened because he couldn't find that space where he could just do nothing. And it seemed like that's where he got. But I kind of missed the last 5 minutes before that. What did you think, Michael?
It feels like a sad movie with more sad, but then it had a wonderful ending. It felt like this is like a horror movie that people have to deal with, and it's like, it's asking these big questions like, does he want the cochlear implant? Does he want to be part of this deaf community? Is he going to be able to be a functioning hearing person after this that can continue with this career? Can he continue this relationship with his girlfriend? I felt like they both had to grow up. They had to get past this relationship, and then the loss of hearing was just doing them both a favor for both of them to move on. Like him with his, not everyone's going to be a rock star. Like him moving on with his dream, and him moving past his addiction, and her moving past the death of her mother. Like everything happens for a reason. I thought it was pretty good. And then that moment of stillness at the very end, it's like, this is what we're all looking for,
The interest, the talk about the relationship is very interesting because there is this romantic notion that they have early on about them. We're going to travel around in this thing that we've turned into a studio that's also our home, and this is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. And people in their 40s are just looking at it and going, "Aw."
That is true.
You're adorable.
I'm going to get a tiny house, and I'm going to live in a tiny house.
I mean, we are podcasting in our 40s, so
yeah. But I did like this movie a lot. I thought Riz Ahmed was pretty great, and his relationship with Paul Raci, who plays the man who runs the rehab center where he's staying. I thought the father-son dynamic that they developed was really moving, and their conversations were really something. And that conversation that they have after he makes the decision that he makes was devastating. Here he was offering this guy a path forward, and he sort of rejected it and rejected him at the same time. And you can say that maybe the Paul Raci his character is being a little too hardline, maybe, but I understand it. I get it. I get what he's coming from.
Yeah, and when I said I thought it was boring, it's not so much that it's the movie's fault necessarily. It's just watching a guy learn how to do sign language, and there's it's not the most entertaining thing in the world. It's more interesting than anything, and depending on your level of tiredness at the time when you go into a movie like this, it does affect your viewing pleasure. Anything else on The Sound of Metal?
It's on Amazon, and you can watch it now.
Mank
is from David Fincher, the director David Fincher, from a script by his father, Jack Fincher, and it's based on the life, well, not the life, but a portion of the story of the screenwriter Herman Mankiewicz, who wrote the screenplay for Citizen Kane. And this is really about a course correction in Hollywood history, about trying to explain to people that, yes, that Welles may have been a genius, but he didn't do this alone. That Herman Mankiewicz was actually a friend of William Randolph Hearst and his wife, Marion Davies, played brilliantly by Amanda Seyfried here, that he was their friend, and he took the story of Citizen Kane from that friendship and created what he created. And the movie draws very distinct parallels between what's in Citizen Kane and what was in the life of Herman Mankiewicz for the time that he was writing this screenplay. It's, again, we're talking about David Fincher, so of course it's impeccably staged. Looks like a movie. It looks like Citizen Kane, really, when you get down to it. Looks like a movie of the 30s and 40s. Gary Oldman is incredible. There's one scene in here that's basically going to hand him an Academy Award when they hand those out in April, and that is there's this big monologue that he gives. It's based on a true story that Mankiewicz got so very, very drunk, showed up at Hearst's house and started this almost endless monologue about Hearst's life that, of course, becomes then the basis of Citizen Kane, with the famous line that has been quoted for 70 years after he throws up. He says, well, at least I threw up the fish and the white wine together. Got them together. Because you have to vomit the proper pairing, you see. It's a brilliant scene, and just sets up the fact that yes, for 70 years, like there was a deal at one point where Orson Welles was going to get all full credit for Citizen Kane, that Mankiewicz wasn't even going to get mentioned. Mankiewicz was so deeply on the outs in Hollywood at the time because of his relationship to Hearst and his drunken escapades, that they weren't going to credit him. They just going to pay him and make him go away. And he insisted on getting at least partial credit, which he got. And this movie is about telling people, no, he deserved a great deal more credit than people gave him for this.
Yeah, I mean, Fincher is my favorite director, I think. So I love this movie, and I watched it immediately after watching Citizen Kane. And I'm not lying, I'd go to the theater every year and watch a double feature in that order too. Citizen Kane first, this second. It's that I don't know. It's not like it's fun, it's not Avengers, but
right.
it's just so well made, and the acting is so great, and it's like, you said it looks like a 30s, 40s movie with a little Scorsese in it and like a Coen Brothers dialogue kind of tone. All that kind of combined into one with an amazing score. I mean, everything about this movie is just really perfect and interesting and neat. You can having just seen Citizen Kane and then watching it kind of unfold in this movie is pretty entertaining. And Fincher, of course, takes liberties just like he does The Social Network, but only to make it better and make it more entertaining and more watchable. And I don't know, he just keeps proving that he's the best out there and making Christopher Nolan look like an idiot. He has nothing to do with this movie, but I gotta.
Whenever you can, Chris Nolan, go ahead, Bob.
I will. What do you think, Michael?
I thought it was super fun, super energetic, especially after watching Citizen Kane, which definitely did feel like homework. You mentioned it. I don't know if he was live on Facebook Live or not, but you said it felt like homework. But it's just like, it kind of felt like Heart of Darkness to a certain extent, to Apocalypse Now. Like, you're like, oh, we're getting the whole story. Like, the taste, like the scoop you're putting in your mouth tastes a whole lot better because you're getting a more well-rounded vision or version of what's happening. Who'd have thought that Amanda Seyfried would be like the one that popped from Mean Girls? Like, she did a really great job. And then also, like, he did his best to make a 30s, early 40s movie. Like, there's the cigarette burns and the transitions and the lighting, the blocking, the staging. Like, I'm going to make this exactly like a 30s movie. And that's what he did.
I was a little bit, there was one aspect of it that, like, the way that Fincher tries to draw the parallels between Kane and Herman Mankiewicz's life are a little much. Like, it appeared to me like he was trying to cast Louis B. Mayer as Bernstein and casting essentially Mankiewicz as Joseph Cotton. And I thought that's a little bit too clean. That's a little bit too clean of a comparison. And I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to give Mankiewicz credit for every aspect of the story of Citizen Kane, which I get, but it's a little too much at times. But overall, it's still very impressive.
Yeah, in terms of the reality of it and all. I mean, I just, I throw that part out. I enjoyed every bit of it. And you're right. I made a save free. I mean, Gary Oldman clearly best performance of his career, but best of her career as well. She was amazing in this, and hopefully this is kind of a vehicle to do more things for her.
She's so relaxed. So that scene, there's a scene near the end where she's talking to Mank about not doing this, and she doesn't seem to particularly care whether or not the character that she didn't, that the character of Susan is based on her or not. She doesn't seem to really care about that. She's really more genuinely concerned about Hearst and what it might do to him, and also concerned about Mank, because she knows that Hearst is going to destroy him. Like she's just certain that he's going to crush him, and she's like, I can stop him from doing this, right? I can, if you just don't do it, I can stop him from hurting you. That's so great. She's so relaxed and so capturing like the notion of Marion Davies as this woman who may not have been a genius, but she was street smart and genuine.
It kind of had like some social commentary, history repeating itself situation when they were going to like the political party at the end, and they're just like, they just kept lying. It's like, I'll just keep repeating lies. No big deal. Nothing bad can happen from that. There's no consequences for that.
Yeah.
It was great. I'd recommend that to my dad. It seems like a movie my dad would like. The Black Bear, I don't think my dad would be. He'd be like, what's this messed up movie?
My dad would hate them both. Bruce Willis. My dad might like Fat Man.
I really relate to the old fat guy.
But it's on Netflix now, and I mean, it's not like Seven or Fight Club, but it's I don't know what I compare it to in a Fincher movie, but it's a perfect. I mean, it's Fincher, so it's good.
To continue this for just a moment more, you're aware of the auteur theory, right? Where the director is essentially the author of the movie,
right?
The idea, and Fincher, when you look at David Fincher, you assume like a guy who does what Fincher does with the level of detail that he does it, he's like the ultimate auteur. But then you watch this movie, and there's almost like a direct rebuke of the notion of director as author, because here he is desperate for you to understand that Mankiewicz was responsible for so much of this, and he's talked about how he can't write a screenplay. Fincher, he says, I can't do it. I don't have the patience for writing screenplays, and he pays so much tribute to screenwriters, and that's partially because his dad Jack was a screenwriter, and this is based off of his script, and his dad died in 2003. So this script has been waiting for 17 years for him to make.
Wow.
And he finally did it now, courtesy of Netflix. I also wanted to mention Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, some of the best work of their career as well. You may not notice it, but it's there, and it's amazing.
Right. That's part of why it's amazing. It's because it's not, John Williams in your face. It's, which, again, nothing wrong with that.
Gives you energy, like that. The score gives you energy, and it puts you in the time period.
Right.
And also what you're saying again, Sean, it was like when Steve Spielberg, like he talks about his production, like he tries to surround himself with the best people. Like he doesn't do special effects, he doesn't do costumes, he doesn't do mask work or whatever for for these science fiction movies he was earlier making. He just surrounded himself with the best people possible, and that's it feels like that's the message of this movie, is like, get the best people you're going to get to make your movie, and you'll make something great.
I don't want to. I know there's a lot of people who prefer to just kind of dismiss auteur theory, and I don't necessarily completely dismiss it. I understand that movies are a collaborative experience, and I'm not saying I'm an auteurist at all. But when you look at guys like Kevin Smith or even Fincher to a degree, the level of detail that goes into their movies does demonstrate somebody who is in an almost complete control of what they're presenting, and in that way, they are on their own. In that way, they are kind of they're visionaries who are presenting something that is fully their own vision. And yeah, of course, there's people who are doing the things that they tell them to do, but they're doing the things that they tell them to do. And again, it does come down to having, in many ways, a director who is taking that level of control over it, and that does, in many ways, make them like an author.
Yeah, and when you look back at Fincher's career, too, I mean, he worked closely with Chuck Palahniuk in Fight Club. He worked closely with, what's her name for Gone Girl? Or I don't know.
Gillian Flynn.
Aaron Sorkin in The Social Network. So, I mean, he definitely has, kind of kept those names next to his name when those movies came out. I mean, so it's, I don't know. This just really, that was a neat idea that was with this movie as well. And when you apply it to Fincher too, especially with someone with so much control in his movies, making people do 60, 70 takes on, you would think someone like that wouldn't be as willing to rely on other people, but he clearly does. But yeah, anything else on Mank?
No, it's brilliant. See it.
Oh, come on, phone. I got face things, stupid cords in the way. I'll do it on camera so people can see it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic
Citizen Homework Kane.
1941, directed by Orson Welles, co-written by Orson Welles and Herman Mankiewicz. Yeah, right. Citizen Kane is the story of Charles Foster Kane, the media magnate who was a huge personality who built a media empire in defiance of his background being brought up with money. He wanted to be a champion of the people and essentially be spiteful towards Mr. Thatcher, who took him away from his mother and his father and the life that he thought he knew as a child. And that's going to haunt him the rest of his life. And he sets about seeming to take revenge on anybody who wrongs him, while also desperately seeking the acceptance that he's never really experienced, that you were supposed to, most of us are supposed to experience from our parents. And I know it's a very simplistic reading of the idea of Rosebud, but really, truly, doesn't it come down to the type of love, all-consuming love that a parent has for a child, and how that's lacking from him? I mean, I know that's, again, very simplistic, but in terms of how it plays out, there's a through line there to say that this is all about mommy issues.
Yeah. I mean, I love that the idea of it, the loss of innocence, and that's where it was. And then as I'm watching this, I'm just sitting there going, I want to believe that everybody in this world has that innocent part of them, that humanity in them. And then I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, this last couple of years, I don't necessarily know that I believe that anymore. But at the same time, I like that, that it exists in this movie. At the same time, at one point this was considered the best movie of all time, and I think Vertigo has since taken its place. But I'd rather watch Vertigo. I'd rather watch The Godfather. I'd rather watch Casablanca. I mean, there's a million great movies that I'm more likely to sit down and watch again than this one. This one isn't as, I mean, in a lot of ways it's a little overrated, but when you're the best, you're going to be overrated. That's just kind of natural. But I like the idea, but like you said, it's very simplistic. It's good, but it's not something I'm rushing to watch over and over again. Like I want to, and really watching Mank after this made it more enjoyable for me this time around.
Yeah. So Bob, like when your kids are like, "Hey, Dad, what are some good movies, like some all-time classic movies to watch?" Are you going to say Citizen Kane?
No, I'm going to say Rocky IV.
And then watch Rocky 1? And then watch Creed.
Right. But you got to get a little older to appreciate the good ones. No, I mean, I'm glad I've seen it, and I'll see it again probably, especially if there ever is a double feature. I'll definitely go and do that because I enjoy Mank so much. I mean, I like Mank better. I mean, that's kind of, but it's more modern. I mean, I know it's trying to be the 30s, but this one it's a little dated. It's harder to go back and watch. But you can get through it, and you can get it and understand the message because it's simple.
I think, but as much as it is simple, I mean, when you look at the filmmaking of it, it's that is much more complex than the story is. When you're watching the direction here by Welles is incredible. He's inventing in literally every scene, inventing new ways of communicating filmically. The choices of shadows and lights, the choices of having no budget and using what you have to make what he makes. Like the ceilings of the Inquirer, they're not real. Those aren't real ceilings. Those are painted over sheets so they can put the lights above them and the microphone so you don't see them, but you can still see the ceiling. And it gives this whole new perspective on how to make a movie when you don't have all the money that you want to make a movie. It's incredible that way. And then you've got Michael Tolan's cinematography, which creates this timeless effect. This movie, when you look at Mank and you look at this, you realize that you can watch Citizen Kane at any time, and it doesn't feel like it feels like it could have been made yesterday. Like that's the level of beauty and brilliance that he brought to the cinematography of this. As Mank demonstrates, again, they look very similar, and one was made in 1940 and another was made last year. That's incredible, and the timelessness of Kane in that way is amazing. Is this again the notion of him spending his entire life just seeking to be loved in this sort of universal fashion that he never experienced. It comes through in every aspect of his life. His political, first of the newspaper thing, being I want to be a champion of the people. I want everybody to love me for being a champion of people. And then when I'm going to politics, I want them to really show me how much they love me by voting for me. And then he turns and becomes this evil sort of person afterwards when he gets rejected by the people and he doesn't become governor. He becomes a tyrant and pays for that. And there's a lot more complexity in the story than I'm giving it credit for. I
understand that, and I appreciate all of that. All of that's part of why it's revealed as, or treated like it's one of the best movies of all time. It's just it is dated in terms of watchability compared to other movies, from the last 70 years or whatever. It's still great, and I think people should see it. I don't want to discount it at all. But I think Benjamin Button's great too, but I don't want to ever watch it again. And I love David Fincher. So yeah, all that stuff's true. And, and even back to the character, when he didn't even really turn, he wasn't really a good guy from the get-go. He wanted the love. It wasn't so much that he actually cared about what he wanted.
However he could get the love, that's how he wanted to get the love.
But he didn't care about the people that he was pretending to care about. And, and then a lot of ways too, I don't want to get political, but Trump kind of ruins things as well. When you sit and look at, the way he handled, in a lot of ways you could look at him in this character, except for the whole Rosebud part. I don't think there's a Rosebud. And that
it's going to be this double cheeseburger from McDonald's or whatever. Like that's going to be his Rosebud.
Quarter pound.
Yeah, jeez.
And because I haven't, the last time I saw Citizen Kane was before Trump really blew up, and became president, and even a little before that. And so that kind of affects the viewing as well, because you can't help but put him in this role. And then you sit and wonder, can you go back and find, where was his innocence at? Did he ever have it? And not just him, there's a lot of other people too. And I don't know, maybe it's just 2020 sucks, and that was that didn't help the viewing either. But I mean, I like the movie. There's a lot of movies I like better than this. It is well done as it is, and everything about it. It is a little more homework than something like a lot of the Hitchcock movies, the good ones, not the ones we've been watching lately.
Not Torn Curtain.
No. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to bring back to the show again, though.
I love it. It makes it even better, and I even like RKO 281 with Liev Schreiber as well. As I thought that was a really great movie about making movies.
I haven't seen that one. Anything else in Citizen
There was another
Kane?
one with Angus McFadden. Do you remember that one? It was more about
his time in the radio with him and Logan Lerman, right?
Mm-hmm. I thought that one was really good too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I haven't seen either of those. Anything else?
I'm not a fan of this movie. I think it's as far as it's number one on the list, but number 157 in my heart. It's like to me, it's no way the greatest movie ever. Like everyone knows the greatest movie ever is Short Circuit 2. But I mean, honestly though, like it feels like there's thousands of movies more engaging, more like in an acting sense to kind of bring you into the character. Like I don't know, like to me, it feels overrated. Like if you're in a cinematography class, you got to watch this. Like the lighting, the framing, the mise en scène, it just blows every other film apart. Every other film is standing on top of this movie. Don't watch this movie. Do not watch this movie.
It's funny about the cinematography. I was listening to a story, somebody talking about what happened to Michael Tolan's camera after this, and obviously people didn't know at the time that Citizen Kane was this amazing movie that was going to go down in history and be beloved. So nobody really thought about anything about the making of it, and so Michael Tolan's camera goes on to be used for another 40 years after this, including having been used on Kojak. Which
Tell us about us.
It's just so undignified. Like this piece of equipment is used in both Citizen Kane and Kojak.
My grandpa loved that show. It brought him a lot of joy.
But I mean, isn't like Orson Welles' last movie, the Transformers animated movie or something like that?
Yeah.
Unicron, he did a great job. He brought a lot of gravitas to that role.
A lot of history to this movie.
I don't know, like there's so many more movies that I would say watch Sunset Boulevard, watch Double Indemnity, watch Third Man, watch Strangers on a Train, watch Touch of Evil. Like watch these movies. Like I'm not telling anyone to watch Citizen Kane. Like if you want to watch it for film school homework, go ahead. I don't know.
I think you have to watch it if you love movies. You're gonna be fascinated by this movie and the making of it and this amazing character and just how innovative and unique it is and and Joseph Cotten doesn't get enough credit either. He's amazing. Really, this is if I'll be completely honest, this is actually the second best movie that Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles are in together, because The Third Man is actually better than Citizen Kane.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. And
I want everyone to just be curious. Like, there's always more films to discover. There's many more movies that people haven't seen.
Howard the Duck.
Find film, share it with people you love, tell people about it. I'm not telling anyone about this movie ever.
But I do think there is something to what Sean was like. The making of it seems what's even more impressive about it, and that's why when I watched Mank right afterward, it made me start to like it more. And then you talked about these other two movies, and then there's even more probably stories about it anyway, even the camera story you just told, that just kind of elevate the movie more than the movie itself deserves to be necessary. I don't know. It's kind of the whole Kevin Smith thing where you see one of his movies, but then he doesn't stop talking about it, and then you start enjoying him talking about the movies. It's that kind of thing.
I guess I enjoy the heart of darkness part of it. Like I like the backstory. I like the interplay. I like who they're like, how they got it made. Like to me, that's much more interesting than the actual film.
We should have watched RKO 281.
We might have had to cut some other movies. All right, let's move on to 1990 and talk about The Grifters.
Yes, The Grifters. Stephen Frears directed, produced by Martin Scorsese, and starring Angelica Houston, John Cusack, and Annette Bening as con artists or grifters. Each different kinds of grifters. One of them is a big time con. One is in the rackets. Another one's a small time con, and it's about how each of them is conning the other and. In a way, but it's also not, because really you get an hour into this movie and you're going, what's the story?
What's really happening?
Like, I was an hour in going, when are they going to start the plot? There really isn't one. It's about these intricate relationships between these three characters, or between each of the female characters and Cusack. Really, he's the center of the movie, and they're informing him. Do I like this movie? I don't know. I don't know if I like this movie. Annette Bening is amazing. Like, my God, is she sexy? But like, I don't know. Like I said, I got an hour into the movie going, where's the plot? What is the, and it's just this thing with his mom and him have a very complicated relationship. He's in this relationship with this woman who he thinks he might care about, but also she's just conning him and stringing him along, setting him up for whatever, long con that she's working on. And he's smart enough to see that. He doesn't trust his mom either for a similar reason. And then it gets to the end and just a lot of violent shit happens and that you don't really see. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure how I feel about this movie. I really don't.
I thought it was fun.
The movie, it's like more about feelings and like relationships, like masquerading as this like neo-noir film. It's like The Long Goodbye, or like it's not anywhere near as good as Chinatown, but it's like this love story to like Big Sleep and Night in the City. It's just a simple story.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm not a big Cusack fan, so I like this. This is one I like more than a lot of those other movies. But I don't know. I thought it was watchable even with the lack of a story, and normally I have a hard time with movies like that. So and con stuff's always, you can do it bad or you can do it good, and I thought this one does it really, really well, and then you throw in some great acting on top of it. I thought it was fine.
I thought it was good, but it wasn't great. Like, I feel like there needed to be more rewrites with the story. Like, there needed to be a mark. There needed to be a goal. Like, something was going to happen instead of just like this snapshot in their life.
Yeah, I prefer movies that aren't just snapshots, but
I can appreciate a character piece like anybody, and I think when you name a movie The Grifters, though, people have an expectation that there's going to be a con job. You're going to be fooled into something, and there's kind of that, but like the biggest switch in the entire movie is kind of dumb luck, really. And yeah, the I don't know, like there's the whole section with Annette Bening talking to him about what she used to do with J.T. Walsh, and I just didn't think that paid off in a very interesting way. Cusack, I'm not sure what he does. What is his goal? Is he just like, he's like the first couple times you see him, he's just scamming beers. Like that's his whole thing.
I make it by with a handful of quarters every day.
You want to demonstrate a small time con, have him walk into Bennigan's. That's definitely a great way.
Hey, you remember Bennigan's, everybody?
Do those still exist?
They had a Bennigan's in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
that may be that was the most stretching of the truth, I think.
It's fun. I thought you don't like John Cusack, Bob. You don't like John Cusack?
I like certain movies. High Fidelity. I cannot.
Didn't this guy direct High Fidelity? Isn't this who directed High Fidelity?
Stephen Frears. Is that him? I think maybe. I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't like Grosse Point Blank. I don't like. He made a couple movies around that time. I don't like any of those.
I totally forgot Jeremy Piven was in this, but Jeremy Piven is in every John Cusack movie. So
he always finds a big gig every single time. Yes, he did do High Fidelity.
I think about John Cusack every day. Hoops McCann, the character he played, One Crazy Summer, it's the best. I love One Crazy Summer. I think it's fantastic. And then his portrayal as Buck Weaver from the 1919. I think about that. Feel like I'm going to live forever. I think about that every day. I love John Cusack. I can't believe everyone says he's an a-hole. And he probably is an a-hole in real life.
You know what I really liked Love and Mercy, where he played
Brian Wilson.
Brian Wilson, him and Paul Dano. I thought that was really neat. And I thought for sure that was going to be a disaster, but he does a good job of. I don't know. I really like that one too.
This has got one of my least favorite little. I don't know. It's a nitpick. A thing that bugs me. It starts with narration that you never hear again. It starts with Scorsese narrating the movie, and why? Why is he here? Why is this in the movie? And it never comes back after the opening scene. Why did you do this? What was the
like,
point?
because he was one of the producers, right? It felt like they screened it once. He's like, I got to get I know what I can do to fix this movie.
Anything else on the grifters before we move on?
I mean, as far as movies from 1990, I think it's pretty good.
I found it disappointing. I did. I was looking forward to it after our conversation last week. I was looking forward to it, especially after we looked up and saw that all the Oscar nominations that it got and how weak 1990 is as a year for great movies. That I was really kind of hopeful that this one might, be transcendent of what we've seen thus far, and it's really not for me.
What do you like better, this or Ninja Turtles?
Ninja Turtles, all the way.
Anybody?
Yeah, definitely Ninja Turtles.
I've never actually seen this next movie, The Rookie, starring Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen. Is this any good?
Count yourself lucky.
It is. It's a dumb. It feels directed by Clint Eastwood movie. It's famous for the Clint Eastwood bullet in his mouth lovemaking scene. You ever seen Clint Eastwood make love to a lady with a bullet in his mouth?
No.
Why does he have a bullet in his mouth?
Yeah, I think they put a bullet in his mouth. It's got Charlie Sheen and Raul Julia. He plays a German guy. You're like, yeah, I'm going to get Raul Julia to play a German guy. Plus, it's got Sonia Braga, famous for Moon Over Parador. The flip. Have you ever seen Moon Over Parador? It's dumb. It's fantastic.
Is anybody famous for Moon Over Parador?
For me. Famous to me.
I don't even think I've ever seen Clint Eastwood even make love in a movie.
No, didn't he do it didn't he try to have a three-way in the movie where he's a mule?
The Mule.
I didn't see The Mule.
Yeah. He's kind of obsessed with three-ways.
Well, it's out there if you want to see lovemaking with Clint Eastwood, you can find it.
I'm sure I could. I
think he'd play Miss You for me. I think he makes love in that one.
I forgot about it. I think I watched his trailers of that one when we talked about it and pretended I saw it.
What we should clarify, when you say he has a bullet in his mouth, he wasn't shot in the mouth.
No. She takes a bullet and puts it in his mouth.
Why?
She likes to live in danger. She's a dangerous lady.
How is that
weird.
dangerous?
Clint Eastwood directed it. I'm sure he has according to the auteur theory, he had a vision that he was sticking to.
He's one of the weirdest guys in the world. Like, sometimes he's as good as it gets, and then other times he's literally the worst thing that there ever was. And I don't even politically, like the High Plains Drifter or Outlaw Josie Wales, like there's super progressive ideas. There's like equal rights things. There's Native American, people having rights for like all these different groups. And then all of a sudden he's a Republican at the convention and he's talking to a stool. And you're like, how did he go from this person to this person? But even in like High Plains Drifter, as progressive as it is, like the first scene he's raping somebody. So I've seen him rape. I haven't seen him make love.
Oh my gosh.
That's not the title of the podcast, I promise.
I haven't seen this movie in years. I'm not thinking it's very good. Charlie Sheen's in it.
I like Charlie Sheen.
I wouldn't watch it again.
Yeah. I thought about it, but I figured if I'm going to watch another one, I should watch Minor Premise. And I decided to watch nothing. All right, that is our show. Next week, we've got The Prom. That's on Netflix. Let Them All Talk. Is that on HBO, I think?
Yeah, with Meryl Streep and Steven Soderbergh.
I'm Your Woman. I can't remember what that is. Wander.
Rachel Brosnahan on Amazon.
That's right. That's why I wanted to watch that. What was the one you told me to write down? I scribbled it. Wander Deadly.
Wander Darkly.
Wander Darkly. And then I don't know if we're going to actually watch it, but HBO has a documentary called Alabama Snake. We'll
the Nick Saban story.
We don't have a classic yet, but in 1990, Edward Scissorhands came out, Mermaids, Havana, Look Who's Talking 2, and The Sheltering Sky. So we'll let you know throughout the week.
Please check out the Two Mics podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Available wherever podcasts can be downloaded. we are entertaining and funnier than most of the people you know. I like to think of our podcast as like a early punk band. We're trying to keep our audience as small as possible to get us as much street cred as we can. So just the least amount of people listening to us will give us the most credibility.
Yeah, listen to it, but don't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have time for Flick Shark?
You could do like a Vincent Price movie. You could do something like that. I got time.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you guys see this?
Oh, wow.
Whoa. Hey, wow.
This is futures now.
Ben-Hur, World War Z.
World War Z.
Yeah.
Ben-Hur is kind of boring.
Incredibly boring.
Finding Dory, Jack the Giant Slayer.
Finding Dory.
Yeah.
Kingsman, The Secret Service, Chasing Amy.
Chasing Amy.
Now you guys can see what I'm guessing you're going to pick ahead of time because I'm moving them out. Wolf of Wall Street, Paranormal Activity.
I don't really like either of these movies. I don't know. I'm okay.
Same. Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, I'll go that way. The Muppet Movie, Godfather
Definitely
Part 2.
No, I mean, if you're picking for official ranking, you got to go Godfather 2. But as far as movies you want to watch, Muppet Movie.
Godfather 2.
I like watching Godfather 2 too.
I'm looking forward to possibly watching all three in a couple of weeks. And technically, Godfather, what is it, Saga comes out this week, but we'll save that for when Part 3 turns 30. What's Up, Doc? The Fox and the Hound.
I'm not sure if I've seen What's Up, Doc, if I'm being honest.
I'm just going to reset them both. I don't want to.
I'm a hound dog. Oh, here we go. Clint Eastwood.
Accepted.
Yeah, I'm going accepted.
Dirty Harry accepted. And accepted wins. Battlefield Earth,
Oh my
Babel.
Babel.
Yeah. I've never actually seen Battlefield Earth. Kill Bill.
I like
Volume.
Kill Bill 2. I mean, Kill Bill 2 has so much heart. Like, honestly, like, it's got, I mean, I really like Kill Bill 2. I've never seen Alexandra's Project, though.
I've not seen Alexander's Project either, but I can't imagine where to pick one that'll beat it.
Ooh, Creed 2.
Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kill Bill 2, Creed 2. I do like Kill Bill 2 better as well. I actually like Kill Bill 2 better than Kill Bill 1. Caddyshack, Go.
Yeah, Caddyshack. Go's a lot of fun. It's a lot of, fast paced, give people what they want kind of editing, but it Go's still fun.
But you pick Caddyshack, Michael?
Yeah, I pick Caddyshack.
And you pick Go, Sean? I'll take Caddyshack. Apocalypto, Bay of Angels.
I've not seen Bay of Angels.
Mm-mm.
Apocalypto, Annie Hall.
Oh,
Annie Hall.
Apocalypto's good, though. I mean, other than the whole racist, denial of the Holocaust situation, Apocalypto's still pretty good.
Avengers, Infinity War.
Infinity War. I go Infinity War over Mars Attacks.
Yeah, me too.
Battlefield Earth, Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
We haven't even talked about Battlefield Earth. Why is it coming up all the time? Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Final Destination.
I'm actually very entertained by Final Destination, but it's Close Encounters, I think, obviously.
I agree. I actually don't like Final Destination that much. The Rock, 1996, Out of Sight.
Out of Sight.
Yeah, but The Rock is fun.
Yeah. Inception, Metropolis.
I'd rather watch Metropolis right now than Inception.
Metropolis is amazing, but I'd rather watch Inception.
Okay.
Well, you know my thoughts on Christopher Nolan. If Fincher directed Inception, maybe it'd be different.
Oh, wow.
Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, A History of Violence.
History of Violence.
Did you guys watch the Eastern Promises too?
I've seen it. I don't think we've done it on the podcast.
I thought Eastern Promises was even just a little bit better than History of Violence. I thought they're both fantastic.
I agree with you, but I think we're in the minority.
Okay.
But I mean, they're both really good. Barton Fink, Mars Attacks.
Barton Fink.
E.T. Tremors.
E.T.
That's a cool poster.
Yes, it is. Even the Tremors poster is pretty cool. Speed Racer, Balls of Fury.
Balls of Fury.
Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer.
I'll go Speed Racer. Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, Serenity. Right? This one.
Batman
Oh, this is like a square-off between two of the worst movies. They decide which worst movies.
Serenity 2019, to be very clear.
Okay.
Because there's another good Serenity movie out there that this is not. But it's Batman versus Superman.
They both
That's what I would do.
They should both end with it being a video game. The Girl Next Door, Never Been Kissed.
Never Been Kissed.
I don't know.
They're both. I think they're both super fun.
All right.
Are you gonna flip a coin or something?
You actually were definitive, so I'll just let you win. Maybe. Rambo 3,
wow.
Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone.
I love that movie. I hate Rambo 3. The Prince.
It's got an awesome knife, though. It's got a hole in it. It's a super awesome knife.
It is a very cool knife. I agree with you.
And he shoots the helicopter that's in the air. It's with the rocket propelled grenade.
The first time I ever heard the word "fuck" in a movie.
Yeah. Princess Bride.
Oh yeah, Princess Bride.
Yeah,
Pride
Princess
and
Bride.
Prejudice.
All the way.
Girl Interrupted, The Windmill. The hell?
I've not seen The Windmill.
I don't either.
I haven't even heard of it. All right, Girl Interrupted, Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Damn it. What do you do here?
Which sad story would you rather watch?
It's a Sophie's Choice of Sophie's choices. No, I don't know. I mean, Girl Interrupted's good, but Schindler's List can't be the best movie ever. I don't know. Go with Schindler's List, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Schindler's List. Well, I think we pitched Dodgeball over Schindler's List last week.
The Thing You Do over Red Dragon.
That's gonna be the problem with doing the screen shares. We'll start answering before, so the listeners are like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Okay, Mr. Deeds, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice.
I'm going Mr. Deeds.
Oh,
Batman versus Superman.
I like Batman versus Superman.
Good Morning Vietnam, The West Side Story.
Good Morning Vietnam.
I like West Side Story.
I don't. Easy A, Aaron Brockovich.
Easy A.
I just watched Aaron Brockovich the other day. I'm definitely going to go Easy A.
I like them both. At least I haven't seen Aaron Brockovich in a long time, though. Rushmore, The Apple Tree of Paradise.
I've never seen The Apple Tree of Paradise.
I've never heard of it.
It's hard to think something better than Rushmore.
But Hot Rod.
Hot Rod's fun.
It's got the Final Countdown's whole album on there.
Rushmore.
That's true. Three Kings, Love Actually.
That's tough. That is a tough one. 'Cause I watch Love Actually every Christmas, like normal people do.
I watch Three Kings every Christmas.
I think Three Kings is a better movie.
I like Love Actually, but they're both good.
I like Three Kings a little better, but I don't know. I saw Love Actually just last year for the first time. The Haunting, an American Tale.
American Tale. This is the 99 Haunting.
Yes.
Yeah, the 99 Haunting is pretty hard to watch, so.
And Fievel is not.
Oh, wow. Tokyo Story is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Tokyo Story by a lot.
Also super depressing.
Also, yes. But Rat Race is depressing in its own way.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Batman and Robin versus
This is once again another Sophie's Choice of horrible movies. I don't know.
It's Limitless for me.
Yeah.
Which poster would you put in your room as a kid?
I think Role Models is underrated film. I think everyone should watch Role Models.
Role Models or From Russia with Love?
Role Models.
I agree. The Professional, Funny People.
Funny People. I know it's not going to be a popular choice, but I think Funny People is actually really, really great, and I think it's terribly underrated.
When the poster guy came to sell posters in my college, definitely Leon. Definitely based on sales alone, Leon.
Yeah, and Gary Oldman, I liked him in that, and he just recently surpassed.
Man,
that.
Gary Oldman's the best, man. He does every. What's that movie where he plays a dwarf? It's like the worst. It's like the worst movie ever. Tiny feet, tiny. What's it called? I don't remember.
I think McConaughey's in it too.
Tiptoe Through the Tulips. What's it called?
It might just be Tiptoes.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, thanks for making me remember that.
No, but I mean, it's a horrible movie, but he still does a great job.
He's not the problem, though. It's the movie itself, but he does kind of pull it off. It's everything else that sucks.
He can literally do anything. I need you to play a dwarf. Okay.
Toy Story 3 and American Tail, Philo Goes West.
Toy Story 3.
I agree. I'm waiting for something funny to pop up so we can end this. The Holiday 21.
The Holiday.
You have an opinion, Mike? I
don't care either way.
All right. Gone Girl, The Hunger Games.
Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Huh. Now, you don't like Gone Girl as much as we do. Is that correct?
I don't know. I think it's fine, Bob. Don't worry about it. It's better than Hunger Games.
Chronicle, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, wow. I really like Chronicle.
I'm not a big fan of Chronicle, but I hate the fact that they remade The Day the Earth Stood Still because it's such an amazing film. The original.
Get Him to the Greek, Eagle Eye.
I love Get Him to the Greek. I love that movie. All for it.
Greek.
I like it very much. Scream, Citizen Kane. Here's how we go out.
Scream all day. I'm going with
Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane.
Scream. Got it on Laserdisc.
I'm going to flip for it. I'm not going to make... I want to say Scream just to be a dick, but I'm flipping for it. Citizen Kane. Game over. All right. Thanks for
You ruined your entire algorithm, Bob.